Deep in the shadows, I know it's hard to put one foot in front of the other.
Hi guys, CeeChronicles here, back again with another fragrance review video. If you're new here, I post fragrance related content and would very much appreciate it, guys, if you did consider subscribing and joining the family. And to those who are returning, thank you so much for the continued support. Welcome to today's video, guys. Today I have a Paris corner of their Pendora line, and this is Noir, a fragrance that looks and of course vibes in the same way as that Montal Arabian's Tonka. So it's safe to say this draws inspiration from that fragrance. I'm going to give you a quick review of this fragrance, but I'm not going to spray it on myself. However, I do have experience with this fragrance on myself. It's just that today I'm wearing my fragrance of the day, so we're going to spray it on the tester paper. Now those are the sprays, and that is sufficient enough for me to give you my thoughts on this fragrance. Notes listed for this fragrance are of course going to be that Tonka, so that's going to be one common denominator here. You've got to love Tonka for you to love the fragrance. I'm going to of course get into detail as to how the Tonka is tonkering. Expect some oak moss and then expect some oud. And let me say this immediately. Every time I say oud, I then get questions in the comment section of how the oud is ouding. This is a light oud to my nose. This is not a pushy oud. This is not a Middle Eastern style of slap in the face type of oud. So this is a safe enough oud to just say it has like a woody tone to it, if I have to put it that way. So it doesn't come across in its distinctness, the oud. So it's a safe enough oud that you're gonna get from this. And then do expect some amber in this fragrance, some rose, some saffron, some sugar, as well as some musk. So the DNA in itself becomes a wrap up of a spicy, warm, embery, especially feel of a fragrance. And it is that embery feel of it that gives it a style of DNA wrap up there, where you're going to feel an illusion, somewhat of a compressed feel of a vanilla. Okay, by this I mean I would not come and say top 10 vanilla scents and then give you this one, but there is a wrap up of a vanilla feel that, you know, holds through from start to finish, bouncing off that amber, the styrax or whatever it is, you know, because there is definitely a vanilla tone to this fragrance. If not, then I'm going to attribute that sweet vanilla feel to possibly the Tonka, because it has a sweet tobacco leaning Tonka. So maybe a sweet tobacco leaning Tonka mixing with a sugar results in like a vanilla wrap up or something like that. So there is something that's definitely going to satisfy anyone who loves their fragrance with like a vanilla wrap up to it, right? The Tonka, yes, is present in this. It's not an off-putting Tonka, comes off as tobacco-y, but without it being pushy. So it's the style of Tonka that I love, because Tonka in itself, depending on how it is mixed, can sometimes also be pushy. This is a very enjoyable Tonka to my nose, especially mixing again with that light oud that I mentioned there in the warm spices. As a fragrance that I can say is a safe enough induction into Middle Eastern fragrances, because it does not assert itself as 100% Middle Eastern. It just has that vibe where if you are accustomed to Western fragrances and you smell this, your nose is likely to adapt to this very easily. So to put it lightly, I do get Middle Eastern traces, but I wouldn't class this as a quintessential Middle Eastern, you know, style of fragrance. The DNA again itself has got something in there that comes across as rosy. Of course, there is rose, but I have to specify here that the rose in itself is fused in that sweetness, where some of you are going to pick it from start to finish, and some of you are going to be having a tease of that rose, where this fragrance has a rosy nuance to it, even gemmy rosy nuance to it, but it's kind of doing like an appearance and a disappearance, disappearance, that is, you know, that type of thing. So have to specify it that way, because if I just say, oh, and the rose, you know, I did put a rose video some time ago, and I was explaining to what the rose note roses in some fragrances out there. So the rose in here is there, comes across as a bit gemmy there, makes an appearance for you. For some of you guys, you're not gonna get to that. You're going to just be buried in that Tonka, but the Tonka in itself is very enjoyable. Now, this fragrance, guys, as I said, draws its inspiration from that Arabian Tonka. However, there's something that I've got to point out immediately here, that this lacks the potency that you're going to get in the original thing. Am I saying it's not a long-lasting fragrance? No, that is not what I'm saying. Am I saying it doesn't vibe like the fragrance is going for? No, that is not what I'm saying. I am just saying this gives me a presentation of a juice that you can wear all year round, whereas the original thing aligns mostly with cold weather. If you have sniffed the original thing, you will know how polarizing, pushy, and how strong that fragrance can be. This lacks in that. It has everything that you get in the original, but it presents itself as a softer presentation. Now, let me break down to what extent the performance of this fragrance is, right? I get a fragrance that lasts 8 hours. However, the first 2 hours of the 8 hours are going to be that of a fragrance that projects. So your fragrance, this one, is going to project for 2 hours, right? After which it gets into a 4-hour phase, which is the 2 hours plus the 4 hours. Now that 4-hour phase is a phase where you will still be able to smell it, even in its prominence on yourself. However, the other people around you would have to be in a 1 meter scent bubble near you for them to be able to get wafts of this fragrance. So yes, it gets into the 6 hours, but it doesn't end there. It actually disappears on me after 8 hours. So the last 2 hours becomes a fragrance that you can smell faintly, where, say for instance, you took off your clothes there and you waved them about, you'll be able to smell them. On the skin, unfortunately, no, it would have disappeared by then, but on the clothes, you know, you will be able to smell it. Say for instance, you were outside and you just had wafts of the wind blowing on your clothes there, you will be able to smell it very faintly there, and after which I would say then you may need to reapply, because then it's gone. But 8 hours for the price of Noir, I'm going to say is a decent performance there, and it's a fragrance that I can class as a genderless. So this is not one I'm going to say, oh, leans masculine or whatever. In as much as it has the warm spices, that light oud and everything, it is a fragrance that's safe enough to call genderless and even to call ageless. By ageless, I'm not saying juvenile. I wouldn't say go and buy yourself a 4-year-old this fragrance. No, I'm saying anybody from 15 upwards would be able to possibly enjoy this. It's also one of those DNAs that has an acquired thing to it, where you may find yourself getting drawn to it from time to time. It's a fragrance that is enjoyable. And one thing of note is if you are to compare it with the real thing, if you already have the real thing gets better after the dry down. Now this one, just is enjoyable from start to finish. So this is one that you may not have to wait for, for the dry down. So season, I've said all year round, and gender, I've said it's genderless. So it's totally unisex. Great fragrance, guys, to own. If you love tonka, if you love your tonka not pushy, because remember, tonka sometimes can be heavy depending on how it's used. In this, it's gentle, it's sweet. It has wafts of tobacco and a hay-like style of feel, wafts of a rose there, sugar, and a compressed vanilla feel. So enough said, guys. That is what I had for you today. This is from the house of Pendora Scents, and Pendora Scents is a subsidiary of Paris Corner. I'm not being sponsored by Paris Corner, but I believe you can get fragrances like these from High G Scent. I do believe they have maybe this fragrance. If they don't, they're very attentive to requests. You can request that they order this for you. They will have it for decanting if you would like to try a decant first before you go all in. IG Scent is going to be your plug. I'm going to leave a link for the company in the description, and of course you can check that out. So that's it, guys. That is what I had to say about Noir. A little bit dark there, but not aggressive. A very nice fragrance, at least to my nose. CeeChronicles is my name. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Do you have it? Is it a fragrance that you were looking at adding to your collection? I would just love to know, so we can interact in the comment section. Remember to turn on post notifications, guys. That way you get to be notified anytime I upload a video. Like and share this one, and remember that smelling good is a form of good manners. Cheers.